You are listening to the Free Spirit Astrology Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Free Spirit Astrology Podcast. I am your host, Brandy Williams, here with an update for the week ahead. We are about to enter into a new month. August is here already. I feel like it was just July 1st, but here we are. There's not a lot of transits this week, but I don't think we need a lot because these are a little hot and heavy. So, Sunday, July 27th, we start the week off with Venus making a sextile to Chiron in Aries. And then by Wednesday, July 30th, Chiron is going to station retrograde in Aries. So Chiron is in this standstill. It's preparing to station retrograde, bringing up all kinds of stuff. So we could be feeling some insecurities and some wounds coming back up, a wounded sense of self, because that's what Chiron is. It is the wound of our own self-worth and how that's wounded because Aries is the self. And when it's making a contact to Venus, this is giving us some helpful insight into how these wounds are affecting our relationships and the things we spend money on and our values and what we feel like we're worth, our price, all those Venusian type things. We could be seeing some red flags, and that could be in relationships, and that's all relationships, friendships, business partnerships, clients, intimate, mom and daughter, cousins, all the relationships. We could just be seeing some little red flags like, man, I kind of stay too long in certain things. We can also see some red flags in ourselves, just how we show up in relationships, the type of shit we let slide, projections, and how we are projecting past things and our own wounds into relationships, and this need to protect ourselves because we do have this wounded sense of self and self-worth. And so maybe we come at relationships like somebody's trying to attack us, or we feel like we're on the defense, or we got to be two steps ahead. And those are really playing out into this Chiron in Aries energy and how we deal with things. What type of things do we do with our money? What do we spend money on? Our escapist behavior. So when Chiron stations retrograde, for sure on Wednesday, this is going to bring up more triggers and past wounds and grief and the things that we feel like we really want or we wanted, but that kind of, just seem like it's right out of grasp. So there's a longing here with Chiron being retrograde in Aries. But all of this is good information to really show us before we even attempt to go to the next step of something, what we're bringing to the table as far as our own self wounds, our own sense of self, our own confidence, insecurities, and our own self worth. How does that need to be addressed? And can we find any healing ointments in some wounds that may never heal, but at least we can have a certain amount of accountability or acknowledgement of the things that we tend to gravitate towards or put up with in relationships or just in interactions with other people. Also, on Wednesday, July 30th, Venus is going to leave the sign of Gemini and enter into the sign of Cancer. This Venus has slowed down, went from a chatty and flirty social butterfly type of vibe to a more low key and, cautious type of energy. So we could be feeling that in ourselves. We could be feeling a little more low key and a little more apprehensive and a little less chatty and a little less likely to reach out and just really paying attention to how we feel about things and letting that kind of translate into our emotional body. And so I usually describe Venus as the energy of money and value and beauty and relationships, and she's all of that. But essentially, Venus is everything that we attract, it's everything that we ask for, based on our personal self-worth. Is everything that we think we deserve, and it is what we value and what we find beautiful, the things that we desire. She's based on our desires in life. And so in Cancer, we could really feel a need to focus on the things that bring us nourishment, the relationships, the investments, the pursuits that nurture us, that feel like safe spaces, the ideas that feel good in our bodies, that bring some type of emotional expansion. She's not really close to Jupiter, but they're in the same sign now. And so that's lovely. That's some lovely self-healing because Jupiter is doing her thing in the sign of Cancer for the rest of the year until next summer. And this is us looking at dynamics of the past and childhood stuff and ancestral stuff to heal some things in our emotional awareness. So we are going to be pondering on relationships that nurture us and the business ideas that feel good and the investments that feel good, taking a look at why we spend money the way we do. A lot of us could be thinking about home stuff, wanting to be at home and redecorate or organize home stuff. Venus in Cancer is connected to real estate. So a lot of us could be buying, we could be selling, we could just be looking, thinking about real estate and buying a new home and things like that. Venus in Cancer is also concerned with values that were modeled to us. What were the messages of self-worth given to us from our parents or the people who raised us? The people who were around us when our emotional world was being crystallized. So between the ages of 4, maybe even 3, 4 to about 11 or 12, sometimes even 13 or 14, what happened when we spoke up, when we asked for what we wanted or what we needed? Who were the people that raised us, that were around us in our immediate environments, modeling different things to us? How did they respond to us? Did these people model safety? Did we feel safe at home? Do we feel safe now? Also, with Mercury being retrograde in Leo, we are reflecting on the ways that we were or weren't validated and appreciated. Did we easily receive praise? What were the messages around us being acknowledged? How were we allowed or shamed to take up space and to shine? Did people clap for us? So those are some things that we're going to be thinking about, and that's a part of that Chiron wound, our sense of self. So all of this is connected. And so we're going to be circling back, because in order to know how to implement things in the future and what's going on in your present, you got to think about the past. So we're circling back to those past relationships and experiences. And I wouldn't even be surprised with Mercury retrograde if past people come up and try to circle the block, or maybe you're circling the block, past experiences and nostalgia coming up with Venus and Cancer, with Chiron and Aries being retrograde, Mercury bringing up a lot of tender spots. And it's really important that all of these energies are bringing up this information, because they're going to speak to the role that these things that we went through play in the foundation of our self-worth and what needs to be reparented, what needs to be healed, because only we can do that for ourselves. So this is not the time to brood in resentment about how we were not treated well, because a lot of us weren't treated well, and that is true. But now that we are in our adulthood, and I'm guessing that if you're listening to this podcast, you're an adult, it's our job to reparent ourselves. It is our responsibility to find the wound, to look at it, and to extract the medicine so that we can heal, so that we can be in good relationships and make good choices. And in order to do that, we have to have this concrete knowing. We have to know ourselves. Sometimes we be in so many other people's businesses, we don't even know ourselves. We have to really know what we value. What are our values? What do you stand for? What do you need to feel safe and nourished when you're around other people and in your own environment? And when you are in a situation that you have to conduct business, what do you pay for that makes you feel safe and nourished? What is something that you invest in? And that's even energy and attention. What are your non-negotiables? Are we giving those things to ourselves so that we can attract those safe spaces and have great things, valuable, nurturing things in our lives? Are we asking for the price that we're really worth? As we level up, it's time for you to put a nice valuable price on you. You worth more than you out here settling for, right? Also, are we mistaking attachments for safe connection? Sometimes for a lot of us, it felt safer to tend to other people, to think about other people, to put the spotlight on other people and don't worry about me, I'm fine. But in a relationship, that brings up resentment, and that brings up the potential for codependency and emotional neglect. So, we want to think about our role and accountability in those different situations and interactions with people, all people, even family members. And then by Thursday, July 1st, Mercury retrograde is going to be in a Cazimi. This is a conjunction to the sun, where Mercury and the sun are pretty much in the same spot in the sky. Mercury is all the things that we think of, that we learn, that we like to speak about, how we communicate, how we don't communicate. And that energy is in the heart of the sun, being burnt up and then being reborn. Mercury is being burnt up, and then Mercury is going to be reborn. and Mercury got a new attitude. Mercury didn't realize some things. So when a Mercury Cazimi happens in the sign of Leo, this is the lion needing to roar to let y'all know, to let a motherfucker know that he the motherfucking lion. Just to remind you that he the motherfucking lion. I heard you was looking for the king. Here I go. Somebody been taking softness. Somebody been taking your softness for weakness. And it's time that we step out the cave and speak on that shit. It's time to pop out and show somebody something. So with that Mercury retrograde, Kazemi, we might be ready to say something, to speak on something. Maybe we are ready to speak on the atrocities that are happening in the world and all of these wars and people starving. Maybe we are ready to roar and to say, you know what, I'm not going to sit back. I'm going to take action, and I'm going to take verbal action, and I'm going to say something, and I'm going to speak on something. I don't care who it offends. Because you know what? Y'all been talking shit for way too long, and I'm sick of that. And I don't know who you think I am, but I'm him. You know, this is bringing a moment of clarity and a moment of courage. You've been playing it small, but you Himothy. You always knew you was Himothy. You was just trying to let everybody else feel comfortable. But it's time out for that shit. You know, some of us are tired of being humble while we let people play in our faces. Sometimes you got to pop out and show them. I'm Big Lion, not the little one, okay? And if that's you, I'm rooting for you, friend. I'm rooting for you to pop out and show anybody what needs to be shown, okay? But also, let me scale it back. I'm gonna back out the pool and say that, you know, Leo does come with a lot of pride and a lot of ego when we are communicating. And so this could be a situation where you might be in a conversation and you might feel like you have the right to say something to somebody, and you are less willing to hear their perspective. And that's not good for communication, in my opinion. I think that the most confident people know and are okay with letting other people speak and say what they need to say and still stand by what you stand on, but to be respectful. So we want to be respectful. We don't want to be pompous and just like arrogant in relationships, especially with people that we value and love. We don't want to let the ego mind get in the front seat and just drive. But sometimes, we just gotta remind you. You know, sometimes the lion gotta remind you, I'm king around here. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna calm down because I have something else to talk about. So last but definitely not least, and probably the most draining and inconvenient transit of the week is happening on Friday, August 1st. So, starting the month off, with a little reality check. So, Venus in Cancer is going to square Saturn and Neptune, who are both retrograde in Aries. Okay. So, first off, Saturn and Neptune are damn near conjunct. They're almost in the same spot. And these are very two different energies. This is grandmother Saturn, who needs respect and clarity. She needs things to be organized. And this is dreamy, hippie great aunt Neptune, who is just like, hey, letting you dream, letting something be romantic and amazing. And then when you get all pumped up, oh, but I forgot this one part. This shit is just like not even real. It's a scam. So together they bring a sense of disillusionment. This is a feeling of disappointment as we start to see that something isn't what we first believed it to be. Something is not real. Something is not as it seems. It's not solid. It's not a good deal. There's actually quite a few red flags, quite a few drawbacks in something. We could be involved in something that's emotionally harmful because it's Venus and it's in Cancer, something that's not really emotionally safe. And that could come from over romanticizing, over idealizing something, lack of boundaries. Saturn and Neptune will also bring blocks and illusions and discouragement and anxiety and depression. Saturn in Aries retrograde can make us feel depressed because things just don't feel like they're working out. And Neptune in Aries is having us in a whole spiritual up leveling. And so we can feel really confused. Like, I don't know what I don't know. I'm just in this liminal space. And So there's a need with Saturn and Neptune for clarity, but Neptune is also bringing confusion. Do I feel this so much? I really do. Every week I'm like, I don't even know if I should just make this podcast. Is it working? Is it, but whatever. But it's my soul, it's my baby. I feel called to say something every week. And I know that saying something is pouring into somebody. So I'm gonna say it. But I'm gonna say it in my own way and not feel like I need to say it in another way because that shit ain't gonna work for me no more. Okay. This is Grandmother Saturn and Cosmic Aunt Millie knocking us over the head. They came over. One of them got crystals, one of them got, a pot because she said she gonna cook some beans for us. And so they came over to see Venus in Cancer, and they like, listen, there's some shit you not being honest about. I need you to keep it real with yourself about the things that you've been feeling, about the emotional safety that you've been overriding, and the insecurities that are coming up because of that. I need you to keep it real. And this could be in relationships, partnerships, the business ideas that we are deciding to take that don't feel good, interactions, and just things not being what they appear to be. You projecting, trying to hide, and with this facade that you got it all together and you don't, all that shit. I need you to stop. Okay. Something is not solid. Something is not a good idea. It's not a good investment. We're glossing over something and we need to come back to a space in the beginning. We need to come back to the drawing board because we missed something. Take a few steps back because we missed something. So, and Saturn, grandma say, it's we're not doing skip steps. So you already know we're going back to the drawing board because you need to look again. And this is why I keep saying, and a lot of my colleagues also say, this is not a good idea to sign contracts, to launch new products, to make big purchases that weren't already in the works. And even then, you want to really get somebody who's good at looking at the fine print to look at the fine print. You want to avoid getting major cosmetic surgery or drastically changing something in your appearance right now because these retrogrades are going to bring up a situation that will need to be revised, to be redone. There's something that's going to need clarity. There's something that's just all around deceptive and filled with hidden fine print that we absolutely not would not agree to if we saw that in the beginning. And this just something that's just not the vibe. So, we can see these tensions starting to show up in relationships, in interactions with friends, with groups, in our careers and our creativity and our passion pursuits. There's something that's not right. So, the conjunction between Saturn and Neptune and Aries in a square to Venus and Cancer can also bring us a situation where we have this increased pressure to feel like it's our responsibility to save someone or to tend to someone in a way that kind of cramps our style or is just draining. We could be interacting with people who are clingy and there's a sense of neediness that is kind of impeding on our needs for freedom. Saturn and Neptune also puts us in position of caretaking for people who may be struggling with some type of mental health or addiction or just somebody who really needs us to show up in a way that we have to intervene in a certain type of way. And there are situations that are really going to test our boundaries and they're going to show us where we need stronger boundaries. Neptune is going to bring revelations about relationships and about people that you're in relationship with. These things could show up in your dreams or in different synchronicities or on a random message on Instagram. You're going to start receiving signs that are just going to hit you in the face if they haven't already. That something that needs to be revised or eliminated or just, looked at, or maybe there needs to be some type of space in between a situation. From about now, but really Wednesday until about Sunday, it'll start to, dissipate about Sunday and Monday. We're going to be navigating this window of tension and instability in relationships and finances. There could be unexpected expenses, especially Mercury retrograde. Things tend to break down. We want to avoid any huge purchases and we want to take stock of our values and what our values are, what they mean to us, and we want to see something for what it is. And this is why it's so important to know your values so that when someone crosses the line on you and they got you fucked up, and when it's you in a wounded mindset and a wounded sense of self that is projecting onto somebody else. So sometimes it's both. It's a karmic entanglement. You just want to know though. You want to know so that you are not clouded with confusion and letting shit slide and, taking stuff out on people and projecting when it's not them, it's you. Because Saturn ain't letting nothing slide. And, Neptune in Aries is romanticizing some shit. But in retrograde, it's like, psych, now I'm going to take the rose colored glasses off something. These people not solid. This is not the thing you should be doing. And so, these energies are just asking us to look harder. This is a week where we're doing a lot of deep introspection. You're surveying the self to see how that is filtering out in all the things that we're doing, especially relationships, especially how we ask for our price, especially our business pursuits, and just really understanding what's ours and what's not. And that is all for the astrology. Now, I did pull some tarot when I was meditating on this week, and I prayed for everyone who was going to listen to, find a little nugget, take what you resonate with, and leave the rest. But as I meditated, I came across a message from the oracle that said to tell you to let the inner tyrant die. Release the mindset of voices that wanted to keep you small, that wanted to keep you humble, because it's a new day. We need to release the need to save other people because we can't. The best thing to do when we're around people in emotional chaos is to be the strong man in the room, to be emotionally grounded so that we can be a beacon of steadiness for an individual, but we can't save them, nor can we do the work for them. The oracle also told me to tell you to think of how your purpose affects you first. Come into alignment with your own purpose. Let it be your own voice, your own lane, versus worrying so much about how it will impact others or be received by others. Because when you get on the same page with purpose, you become the vessel, and then you can pour out onto the people who want to receive what you offer. So this is a step that the ego mind loves to skip. But remember, Saturn in Aries says there are no skip steps in this season. You are the vessel. And that is all I have for this week. So I just want to thank y'all for listening to all my ranting and raving about the astrology of the week. And I love you. And if things are feeling hard, I want to send you a virtual hug. I want to invite you to reach out to me just to be a listening ear. And otherwise, I'll talk to you soon. Bye. You are listening to the Free Spirit Astrology Podcast.